Guys, welcome back to another video. I really wanted to make this video for you at the range. However, today the weather is crazy outside, so apologies if the audio is not too wonderful. If you're hearing some other sounds, that's just the building about to blow away because we're having some weather. They call it the Cape of Storms for a reason. So yeah, today is one of those days. Anyway, first of all, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed to the channel over the last 2 years, essentially. The channel broke 50,000 subscribers not too long ago, and I don't think we've really acknowledged that on video. So I want to thank every single one of you. If you've been subscribed for 2 years or if you've been subscribed for 2 hours, thank you very much. It's really awesome. And I look forward to heading to our goal of 100,000, where we will put our little plaque there if we are still in this space at that time. But yeah, we're halfway there, and that is super exciting. And it's super cool. I never really thought I'd be a YouTuber. It's kind of weird to, I don't know, when do you refer to yourself as a YouTuber? Yeah, anyway, but it is what we do now. So in today's video, we are going to be discussing why I sold my Ruger precision rifle in 6.5 CREEDMOOR and to go the custom rifle route. That's basically what the premise of today's video is, so stick around till after the intro and we will see you there. So if I'm not mistaken, I was one of the very first people, if not the first person, to get a Ruger precision rifle in 6.5 CREEDMOOR approved in South Africa. So from the day that I handed in my license application to fetching the firearm was just over 30 days. I think I got the text message that the license had been approved after 28 days, which is quite something that doesn't happen anymore. Anyway, so we have one of our patrons, Ruger precision rifle. Thanks, William, I appreciate this. So he gave us the rifle to do a little demonstration because obviously I don't have mine anymore, and that's really why we are making this video. So let me start off why I bought the Ruger precision rifle in the first place. So I thought at the time, by the way, at the time when I bought this, I knew nothing. You know, I just bought a handgun, shot some IPSC matches, then saw a poster for a precision rifle match, started Googling. The Ruger had just come out in America. I phoned around to the Ruger dealers and pretty much placed my order as soon as I did enough homework about the cartridge, specifically the 6.5 CREEDMOOR. I'll never forget the day I went to collect it and somebody asked me what it was chambered in because we were looking at it in the store, and I said 6.5 CREEDMOOR, and they'd never heard of it before. So South Africa does lag a little bit behind the US in that sense, but yeah, I got the rifle and it shot great. I initially ran a suppressor on the front. By the way, in South Africa, you just walk in and buy a suppressor the same day. There's no paperwork. The only paperwork you get when you buy a suppressor is the receipt. So I shot it suppressed a little bit, and you know, I didn't really know how to manipulate a bag or shoulder a rifle. Like, yeah, and it felt like it recoiled quite a bit to me, but again, I'd had no previous experience really shooting any large caliber rifles. Not that the 6.5 CREEDMOOR is considered a large caliber rifle, but you guys know what I mean. I shot my very first precision rifle match with it and I absolutely sucked. We've spoken about this before. I had a second focal plane PST Gen 1, and I didn't know that if you change the magnification then the values change in the reticle, and I didn't have a cover on my suppressor, so I was dealing with a lot of mirage. I thought the scope was terrible. But nonetheless, I had a lot of fun shooting that match. Then I went to do some long range sort of course, which was really expensive, but I didn't get that much value. And then I really dove into learning on YouTube and reading articles online, and I was able to start squeezing the most out of my production. I'm using production because at that time, I don't know if it's still the way, but in the precision rifle series, at least, you could shoot a Ruger precision rifle and qualify as production. So I ended up winning a 2-day match in the production category, which was super cool. And then round about that time, I started really doing my homework on sort of what the pros are using in the US, because I really wanted to take my equipment to the next level. And this is where I sort of felt limited by the Ruger. Now, at that point, keep in mind, I had the Ruger Gen 1. I think this is a Gen 3 already. By the way, this is a little bit of a balancing act because this Ruger has an Arca rail on the bottom. And I've just used this BT cal to just sort of balance that for us for the purposes of the video. So on the Ruger Precision, the handguard at the time was really round at the bottom, and this one is a little bit more flat. you can really hear the rain coming down. So I apologize if the audio is bad, but the lapel mic should do a better job of that. So what I found with a round handguard, if you're shooting off barricades and stuff like that, you do have to deal with a little bit more roll, whereas with something like the ESS, which we'll have here, which we'll cover in more detail just now, there's a little bit more flat surfaces there and a nicer interface with the barricade stop. Although this is a pretty nice interface right here for using that as a barricade stop. But for the most part, I really felt limited to the Ruger platform. And in South Africa, there's not a lot of aftermarket accessories like you guys have in America. So my own Ruger, I upgraded because at that time they still shipped with the plastic bolt shroud at the back. So I think I got the LRI upgrade. This Ruger's been heavily upgraded, by the way. Let me show you guys what we've done here. So William, I think this is an Area 419 Arca rail. We've got an MDT vertical grip on this. It's got a Magpul PSR buttstock because a lot of people aren't crazy about the factory buttstock. I personally don't like this look. I think the factory one actually looks pretty cool, and it certainly didn't bother me. Obviously, we have the 3-lug bolt, and we have a folder. The other thing I really didn't like is that it folds the other way, and it really doubles up on the amount of space that the rifle should take up in a case, whereas on a folder ESS or something, it folds over the bolt, or like the Accuracy Internationals, they fold over the bolt, and just, you know, you're halving that sort of space your rifle takes up when you're running it in the folder configuration. Let me just do our little balancing act here again. But the Ruger has a hell of a lot going for it. You know, it's an out-the-box solution basically, and you don't have to do all these upgrades. Coming off the factory, maybe if you wanted to run some sort of Arca rail on the front, you could do that. It comes with a threaded muzzle. At the time I bought them, I believe they do come with muzzle brakes, but I mean, you're saving quite a bit of money from having to go thread your muzzle. There's a lot of pre-fit barrels available in the US, at least not in our country, and you could easily swap out and upgrade the Ruger now if you lived in America. And it's been out for a few years, so there are quite a few upgrades available to it. But for myself, I really wanted to go sort of in the custom route, and I always fell in love as soon as I saw the MDT chassis. By the way, this is the first MDT chassis I ever bought. I'll never ever sell this one. It's got a lot of sentimental value to me. As soon as I sort of saw this ESS look, I was freaking sold on the ESS. And so yeah, I was lucky enough that at the time there was a massive shortage of the Rugers because they'd only received the first shipment. I'd almost had mine for a year. And this is very important, guys, when you're buying firearms or any equipment. I think this applies to a lot of things in life. Don't buy junk. Don't buy a fake Atlas, for example. Buy the real thing, because if you ever wanted to get rid of it, you're gonna get your money back. So I was able to sell my Ruger. I think it had 800 or 900 rounds through it, and I sold it for almost exactly what I paid for it. So that says a hell of a lot about the firearm retaining its value. And I made a nice little point to my wife that it's an investment because it doesn't really depreciate that much. But overall, I had a lot of fun shooting my Ruger, and that's really where I laid the foundations to what I have now. And when I look back at some videos shooting the RPR, first of all, it's really nice to have old videos for yourself to refer back to, because you can see how you've progressed as a shooter, and that's something that I really like. And as you guys know, that's why this YouTube channel exists, because I just started filming myself to better myself essentially. And when I look back at that stuff now, it's really cool to see the progress you've made, because sometimes we can sort of fall in this rut. You know, you have a bad match and it's like, I'm not really getting better or anything like that. But looking back 3 years, what you've learned, it's amazing. Anyway, so let me pop this guy down and I'll take you guys through sort of what I ended up building. So then I phoned a chap by the name of Mark Gordon from Short Action Customs, and I was like, Mark, first of all, this is what I need. I want a 6.5 Creedmoor. I wanted Defiance action at the time, Bartline barrel. You know, I pretty much went on the Precision Rifle blog and I looked at what the pros were using, dual HVR trigger, and I really didn't know any better. So I went on the Precision Rifle blog. I was like, this is what the guys are shooting, so therefore it must work. At the time, the 6mm thing was really taking off in America already. But I really wanted to go 6.5 Creedmoor because, first of all, I already had all the dies, I had all the cases and all the components to load 6.5 Creedmoor. So going to a custom rifle in the same caliber was a good fit. By the way, when I got the Ruger, it was so new here, you couldn't buy brass, you couldn't buy anything. So I bought 200 cases of Hornady SST, I think it was the 129 grain, which was ridiculously expensive because everything is expensive here, especially if you're buying factory loaded ammunition. Nonetheless, Mark spun up my barreled action for me and we popped it into an MDT ESS chassis, and that was actually the black one I have. I'll show you guys some pictures of that. That rifle, as you know, is disassembled in the safe at the moment, so I really can't show you that, but it's going to look pretty much the same. We didn't have the folder. By the way, this is what the folder works like on the ESS. Let me just do that. I cut my thumb yesterday, so I don't really have too much dexterity, but that's what I was saying earlier. You know, when it folds over the cap like that, it really does reduce this profile if you're flying with your rifle or you're backpacking. At that time, we also didn't have all the carbon fiber trims and stuff. That came a little bit later, but I did add that to my rifle, and I really like the fact that with the chassis system like this, you know, if you've got a Remington 700 or a Howa, as in this case, you can really chop and change things, and whereas with the Ruger, you're really sort of limited to the Ruger chassis. You know, whereas with this, you can swap out different fore ends, you can change the grip. Okay, obviously you could change the grip on that, but you could change the buttstock, and you could just pull out this barreled action, drop it into an ACC, for example. So that's really the modularity I was after, and that really did pan off pretty well, because the next year the ACC chassis came out, we were able to drop that barreled action over just like that. I won a lot of matches with that chassis, and then now it's in the XRS. So I really think longevity wise and versatility wise, with a barreled action that just drops into a chassis system of sorts, you can get yourself more options. You know, for example, if I wanted to take that 6.5 CREEDMOOR, I could just drop it into this little carbon fiber chassis and I could be off hunting. Whereas with the Ruger, you are really limited to the Ruger platform and you're kind of stuck with that. Having said that, you have to factor in that the Ruger gets you sort of everything out the box. But what I really encourage you guys to do, if you're looking at getting into the sport, perhaps weigh up the different prices. You know, what would it cost you? I'm using South Africa as an example because Howa rifles are really affordable. Like, weigh up what a Howa barreled action would be with an RX chassis or an ESS chassis and a scope, and then do the same exercise with the Ruger and really see where you're coming out, because I think that is a valuable exercise. And had I known what I know now, I probably wouldn't have bought my Ruger in the first place. Do I regret buying my Ruger? Absolutely not. That was a really cool rifle, and we wouldn't be where we are today had I not purchased the Ruger. So I really don't think I made a mistake by doing that. So guys, on that note, I want to thank MDT for sponsoring the channel. By the way, if I make a video specifically, for example, if I was to do a review on the ESS chassis system that we have in front of me, MDT wouldn't sponsor that video. It would still be in the intro, but that's just something I drag and drop into the videos because they're not interested in me pushing their product on anyone. They just want to support us to make awesome content, because if you guys don't know, when you make firearm stuff on YouTube, they pretty much demonetize everything and we get no real ad revenue. So we can't thank our friends over at MDT enough for helping us out on the channel. If you're interested in a chassis system like this or want to have a look at some of their other offerings, visit mdttech.com, and yeah, they've got a wide array of things. You can even upgrade your Ruger precision rifle with some vertical grips and some other parts if you're into that kind of thing. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit better and we'll be back out at the range having fun making impacts. Yeah, so check out some of our latest videos up here. You can support the channel on Patreon if you're into that kind of thing down here. And if you haven't already, do subscribe down here and make sure you have that notification bell turned on. See you in the next one. Bye.